Hello, everyone. This is Kyla from Hidden Gems Literary Emporium, your family-owned nonprofit community bookstore. And today we have a very special guest from Delaware in the tri-state. So close, but still kind of far, depending on which road you take. Teapot is the author of this book, The Black Diamond and the Witch's Curse. Thank you. I want to say Mr. Teapot.
That's okay.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm like, do I want to? Yeah, I'm going to ask you that question again. Let's talk about how you got the name Teapot.
Yeah, so Teapot is actually my nickname that a lot of my friends and family from back home call me. It actually started when I was at a community center when I was a little kid. A counselor who was there, his name is Mr. Curtis. He started to call me Teapot as an acronym for my name, Terrence and Potter, so Teapot. And that spread and spread and spread. And people I didn't even know started calling me Teapot. I didn't know they like how they found out about that, but they started to hear about it. They started to call me that. So now everybody now just calls me Teapot. And so, that's where it came from. Very organic.
And speaking about organic, I was just trying to figure out what type of metaphorical relationship there would be between like a teapot and teapot. So, teapot.
I actually did think of something. So
okay, tell me, please.
So a teapot is a vessel for warmth. It holds warm tea. And I am a vessel for warmth. I'm a very warm person, very caring. And so I'm a vessel for that warmth, like a teapot.
You know what? You better talk about it. And teapots, yes, it's a vessel for warmth, and you don't keep the teapot for yourself. It's really for other people. You pour into others' cup. But the teapot is used as the centerpiece because you put the teapot in the middle, everybody has their cup, and what's in the teapot is shared with everybody else. And then you have a communal conversation or kind of powwow based on that.
Yep.
You better go ahead. I like that. Okay. So you wrote this book, The Black Diamond and the Witch's Curse, which is available and on display here at Hidden Gems. Please, everybody who will be watching this, come by and get your copy. Why don't you begin by briefly introducing yourself, telling us about this book and what inspired it?
Right. Yeah. So like I said, my name is Teapot. I'm the author of The Black Diamond and the Witch's Curse. It is the first book in a book series. And this book was inspired by my absolute love for fantasy and sci-fi. My grandmother, my mom, I call her my mom. My mom, she's really big into this type of genre. So she's really big into, magic and sci-fi and monsters and things. And when I was a little kid, she would get me into it too. Like she would read books about like vampires and magic and watch shows like back in the 90s when I was a kid. She would watch things like Xena, Warrior Princess, and Hercules, and Buffy, and Charm, and stuff like that. And so I got into it too. So I started to like that type of thing. And my dad was big into comic books. So he got me into comic books as well. So Marvel comic books, DC comic books. And so I got big into that as well. So both of those two people kind of inspired this love, of the genre in me. So I know as every little kid, you do playtime and imaginary things. You come up with stories in your head about, playtime and acting, all that kind of stuff, play acting and stuff. And, as I've continued in my youth, I developed things in my head about, if I was in like a sci-fi story, if I was in a magical story, what would it be? You have ideas in your head. So it formulates throughout your childhood and throughout as you keep growing up, and it stays in your head. So when I graduated from college, I was kind of aimless. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I got inspired by a former Spanish teacher of mine in high school. Her name is Miss Pierce. She became an author. And I said, oh, that's really cool. So I said, oh, I can maybe do something like that and get the stories in my head from my childhood on page. So that's what inspired me to kind of like, coalesce the ideas in my head into an actual story. And, to begin writing in this way to challenge myself, because I didn't consider myself like a creative writer. I'm more of like a technical writer, but I wasn't really a creative like writer. So it was a way to challenge myself to be inspired to do something that I didn't think I would never do. If you would have asked me when I was a kid, I would have never guessed author. Like, I'm just not a writer. So, I would challenge myself to do something I never did, and also kind of to pass the time. So that's what inspired the story.
And so this was written in what was published in 2016.
Right. I began writing it in 2013, about a year after I graduated. I started writing in 2013, and was published in 2016.
Let's talk about your writing process, because you said that you're mostly a technical writer, but you did create a fantasy creative type of book.
Right.
So how did it work? Did you have an idea and just kind of go with the flow, or did you base it off of the chapters, or did you have an outline? What was your process like?
Well, my strength is technical writing, so I wrote it actually in a very technical way. Like they teach you in school to do, pre-writing, to do the outline, all those types of stuff they teach you in school. That's exactly what I did. So I pre-wrote the book first. So I had like a Venn diagram. I'm laying out characters I want to have, a Venn diagram here, and then I take the Venn diagram and then I actually break it down into an overall, like, how do I want the story to go. Then after that, I break it down chapter by chapter, chapter by chapter, put the character here, or okay, this character shows up in this chapter, this event happens in this chapter, that type of thing, a very brief outline of that. And then when I start, I go on the outline that I created and I start each chapter, just writing the story from there. I give myself enough space to kind of ad lib and do, if I want to change something, if I'm writing the story and I want to go off script, so to speak. Now I allow myself the freedom to do that, but I try my best to kind of stay within at least the skeleton of the outline, to give myself kind of a North Star to go to, so I know where I'm going with the story. I don't get lost in the weeds somewhere, So I start from there and I try to write. When I'm writing a book, and when I was writing this book, I actually write every day. I never skip a day. I try to write at least, you're on mute. I try to write at least a page and a half every day. Even if I'm experiencing writer's block, I still try to write something down. Even if I'm going to like erase it, I write something down every day. That keeps me on task and stuff. And so that's kind of my writing process until it's done. Then I edit it and that type of thing.
I like that. And I mean, some authors, they go with the flow, and some authors are more technical. If I were to write a book, a fantasy book, I would pretty much, my husband and I, we're both writers and poets. And so I envision my husband being more of the flow and go author, and his stories are amazing. I should tell people more. I gotta tell him that he needs to publish his story. Anyway, but I'm more of a, and even my husband will tell you, like, she's a little bit much, but I would probably also have a Venn diagram and arrows and outlines and things like that, because I feel like it could help,
It helps. It helps me.
Yeah. How did you choose your characters, and how did you choose the name? So from the summary, the main characters are Matthias, Omar, and Tre'Vell, and Derek, of course.
Right. So I actually based the characters off of like amalgamation of people in my life. So each character is not a one-to-one, for people in my life. I take a little bit of traits from this person, kind of, that type of thing. And how I came up with the concept of the four of the main characters together is that I have three friends of mine that I'm close with, that I actually met when we were all in track. We were on a track team together coming up as kids and stuff, and we became very good friends. And my relay team from track is the four of us. So that's how I kind of came up with the concept of four friends from that group of my life. The names, I don't know where I came up with the name. I think I just kind of pulled the names from just different ideas in my head. They're not actually people in my life, actually. I don't know anyone. Well, I know people name those names, but I just kind of came up with those names. it's more about the characters and the concept of the characters is pulled from people in my life. A lot of things in the book are pulled from people in my life. A lot of the character, the settings, are all places, kind of in Delaware or from the University of Delaware and stuff. People who are from Delaware or went to the University of Delaware, there are things in the book that they would know, oh, I remember that place. Oh, I remember that, that type of thing. So, it's people who read it from Delaware, they get a kick out of it because they notice things, from the book that is from their environment and stuff. So a lot of it is from things in my life. I kind of put that into the book.
That's cool. And I think it's cool how people can read the book, from that area and say, oh, no, like, is that where I went to class? He's talking about that. It kind of, it pulls them into the story more. And I love things like that. I want to take a moment to read the summary. And then maybe you could talk a little bit more about the premise of the book. To most people, it appears as if Derek James is a typical college freshman. Yes, he is on a football scholarship at one of the most prestigious universities in the country. But other than that, he appears quite ordinary. But there is an extraordinary secret that Derek is harboring. He is a warlock. When he runs into fellow freshman Matthias?
Yep, you're right.
Matthias, Omar, and Tre'Vell, he is surprised to learn that they are also warlocks. What a coincidence. Shortly after they all meet, however, the freshmen start getting attacked by terrifying monsters. Now, the four fast friends, oh, I'm so glad you mentioned track, because now that makes sense. Right. Now, the four fast friends must overcome doubts and disagreements in order to discover the source of the attacks, but it may go deeper than any of them realize. This is why I love doing these interviews, because we would have never known that, okay, Teapot has a history of track and he made friends, his relay team was 4, and then now you're reading the story with that information. It's like clicking like, oh, fast track? And then it'll also make you think, what other things in these characters are part of Teapot's real actual life, So
it's a lot. It's a mystery. You gotta read to find out, but it's a lot.
That's right. Yeah, and so I want to go to the table of contents, because I personally, as a young reader, I've always loved and appreciated a good table of contents. Is that the technical reader-writer side of me? I don't know, but I think it's cool when you go to the table of contents and you can pretty much see exactly what is going on. And even sometimes when the table of contents prompts you to kind of skip ahead. So like, for example, chapter 7, completion. And in the story, you don't want to skip ahead, but the titles of the chapters are so straightforward but descriptive. You can tell what's going on or what's going to be going on just by reading the title. So it's like chapter 12 is like undead. What's that mean? Let me spoil it for myself a little bit, go to 182, but then let me not do that. How did you come up with the titles of the chapters? Did you write the chapter first and then title it, or was it vice versa?
I wrote the chapter first because I didn't want to track, because if I would have wrote the title first, I would have trapped myself into having to do something, into that. I didn't want to trap myself. So I actually just let the story in the chapter go organically. And then I went over the chapter and said, okay, what happened in the chapter and what would, tell the reader or hint at the reader what's happening in the chapter without spoiling it, so that type of thing. So it could be, the title could be the name of maybe the person who first shows up in that chapter, or it could be an event that happens in that chapter, or a setting that you first learn about in that chapter, or something like that. So, it's informative without being like spoilery, but I definitely wrote the titles after I wrote the chapters.
Do you have a favorite chapter in this book?
That's kind of like asking about my favorite like son or something like that. The favorite one, I mean, I can tell you one that was the most difficult, more
Oh,
than that
I'll
was
take that.
okay, right. I would say it's actually funny that you mentioned undead because that was one that was difficult. Because I kind of want to spoil the book. But that's one of the first, like that's one of the big, like action chapters, I guess. So in writing action in a book form is actually quite difficult because you have to be very descriptive. That's one of the most difficult things when you're, struggling to write like creatively is write action, like write compelling action because you have to really describe it for the reader in a way that they can almost imagine it in their mind without actually seeing it. So that was the first one I wrote that was really kind of action based, and I kind of struggled a little bit to write the action in a way that I thought the reader could like envision it. So that was the first my first action chapter that I wrote. So the undead one was pretty difficult.
Okay. We like to flip open and randomly read a paragraph or so. And we always tell readers who come in the store to do that because a lot of people they say, oh, I want to get back into reading, I don't really know what I'm looking for, and we tell them just go towards what you're gravitating towards and flip it open and read it and see if it calls to you. So but I just want to I don't want this to be a spoiler paragraph. I hate when that happens. Oh, is this a spoiler? Oh, let me flip again. Ah, okay, one more time. All right, let's pick this page. Yeah, because the last 2 pages, it was a juicy paragraph. I'm like, I don't want to do that one. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so I flipped open to page 83, and it talks about the book, The New Jim Crow.
Oh,
Yeah, and so can I read that part?
yeah.
Okay. After dinner, Matthias and Omar made their way to Gore Hall. Gore. Is it really called Gore?
Yes, that's not. I swear that's not made up. That actually is an actual like building at University University I went to. I've actually been inside Gore Hall, so that's actually original.
That is funny. Okay. The lecture that they were attending was entitled The New Jim Crow. The guest speaker was Michelle Alexander. She was promoting her book of the same name. So what class do you need to go to this lecture for? Matthias asked. My intro to criminal justice class. I'm a criminal justice major. That's funny. Matthias said, my anthropology class. You have to go to this lecture for anthropology. Matthias answered, it's cross-listed with Black American Studies. Oh, now I get it, Omar said, understanding dawning on him. The 2 warlocks, got there just as the lecture was starting. They slipped in and tried to be inconspicuous as they grabbed 2 seats near the back. It's funny that he's a criminal justice major.
Oh yeah, you'll learn more about that later in the book.
Okay. Why did you choose to include that little tidbit in there
About the criminal justice or about the new Jim Crow?
about the new Jim Crow?
Okay, so yeah. So again, this is another thing from my own life that I put into the book. So when I was in college, I actually had a class where we actually had to go to a lecture from Michelle Alexander. She actually came to my college and stuff. She actually gave a presentation on her at the time her new book called The New Jim Crow. And during the lecture, she explained about, the criminal justice system and the history of it. And, she went through the whole thing about, convict leasing and the whole history of policing in the United States and that sort of thing. And when I heard it, it connected so many dots from my own life coming up and people in my life coming up and things I seen in the news and things I heard and experienced my own self, and it really like fascinated me. I actually like got her book that she was obviously selling, when she had the lecture, and I read it, and I was just in rapture. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know this and this and that and stuff. So it has such a profound impact on me that as a Black man myself, that I thought it would be interesting, for these characters, for to have that experience, for them to have an impact, just a little blurb, but have it, that would impact their lives as well. So that's a kind of decided to kind of put that in there.
And it could impact readers who are reading this book. And and they, for people who do not know about the new Jim Crow or the author, they might just like, what's that book? Let me look it up really quick. Oh, that small little part might lead them down a whole line of research and exploration, or just enlightenment on a whole facet of life that they might not have previously thought to explore.
Yep.
Or think about it. And we tell people all the time, there's and especially we say this to the youth, don't sleep on fantasy or fiction books, because a lot of times, as we're talking about now, there are real events and people that inspire or are included in these books and historical events, and you can really learn a lot from reading fiction and fantasy, and you'd be surprised. So
fantasy is just a way to tell, in my opinion, fantasy is a way to tell real world stories about real world people in a fantastical and interesting way. But the actual lessons and stories and things like that can be very real. Like, it's not just made up. People think it's just made up stuff. Because I've had people come to me, well, why do that? Just kind of made up. I'm like, well, maybe like the mechanics of like magic and stuff is real, but the allegories and the lessons and even the events be very real world and very impactful in a real world way. That's one thing I love about the genre stuff. It's a way to tell really interesting, real world stories, and like just in a very interesting and fantastical way though.
Agreed. What would you, I don't know if what you said would be the answer to this next question. Would you say that would be one of the main takeaways that you think, or that you would hope for readers to take away from this book? Or what's one of the themes or the ideas that you want readers to take away when they're done reading this book?
I would say it's so interesting how things happen. So I think one of the main things of this book is friendship and working together for the common good. And it's so, how it's funny how, life works, because I feel that is a lesson and a story that I think a lot of people need to hear, especially in modern times, especially in, the times such as this. Obviously we all know what we're going through the past couple of years with COVID and things like that. And it's just, I've seen things in my own life and seen things on the news and things of that nature that just has me thinking that we really need to work together to help each other out in tough times. And this is a story about 4 guys who are helping each other out to get through the issue that they face. And people can take that lesson and apply it to their own life, to help each other out in all the issues, the common issue that like we're all facing, right now with, COVID and just other things like that. And not even just beyond COVID, just when people are struggling, we need to come together, like you said, as a community of friends, and like help each other out to achieve a common good. It would help us if one of us succeeds, then we all, improve and succeed together. But it takes a village, it takes a group, it takes, cooperation, it takes overcoming differences, because we all have differences, and that's okay. Differences, make us who we are. We shouldn't run away from differences. We should acknowledge differences, but just use those to help each other out in a common way. That's what the characters in this book do. And I think people can take that lesson and have it applied to their own lives, and they can do that in their own lives.
Yes, agreed. And I agree with you that that is definitely an important takeaway and a lesson and a theme that people need to remember and apply in their daily lives. Children, teenagers, adults, especially adults, are usually the ones that need to remember that. So thank you for that. Now, if anybody who reads this book has maybe a question, or they want to leave you some feedback, or they just want to say, Teapot, I read the book, I love it, thank you, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
So I am having a website actually for the book series, but this is the first book in this series. Created. It's going to be ready. It should be ready within the next week, if it's not already up at this point. Called I don't know exactly what the domain name for the website is going to be as of yet. That's not been finalized as of yet, but I do have a Facebook page for the book that's created for where I'll be posting all of the updates for the book. Any type of you can buy the book, any type of, I'll put the website when it's completed, and I'll put that on the Facebook page. I'm creating a Instagram for the Facebook page. The Facebook page is the Black Diamond. Pretty simple. And I'll post any updates about the book, any type of appearances I'll be making, or any interviews, other interviews that I've been doing. I'll be post there for interested parties. The website, I've seen the website. I helped make it, so and on the website, I actually will have information about the book. I'll have a blog on the website. I'll be posting regular blog updates. I'll have different media engagements we posted to the website. I'll also be posting that on the Facebook page as well. So I would say for right now, the Facebook page, the Black Diamond, all the information for the book, or if you want to leave a comment or anything like that, will be on the Facebook page, the Black Diamond. And within the next couple of days, if not already, the website for the book series, the Black Diamond, will also be up and running as well.
Okay, so if anybody wants to contact Teapot or stay in touch about the upcoming books that will be coming following this one, The Black Diamond and the Witch's Curse, please connect with him on Facebook at The Black Diamond. And also, of course, we want to encourage everyone to come by Hidden Gems Literary Emporium. We're here in New Brunswick, New Jersey, 55B Morris Street. Come get your copy of this book. Or if you give us a call at 609-361-4331, we'd be more than happy to ship a copy of The Black Diamond and the Witch's Curse to your home. Thank you, Teapot, for your time today, for the time and love and attention that you spent creating this book and more books to come. And we look forward to reading not only this book, because we do read all of our independent author books cover to cover. We feel it's the least that we could do to support. And, we don't want to promote something that we can't say that we've read ourselves. So, and another thing is, it's been a while since we've read fantasy. There's only a few other fantasy novels here from independent authors. So we're excited about this, and we will also be writing a review. And so anybody can go on our website, Hidden Gems Literary Emporium, to see all of that. And we love you all for reading. Mr. Teapot, we love you for writing and reading. And thank you again for your time today.
Thank you so much, Kyla. It was a pleasure to talk to you today.
All really right, excited. So much. Thank you. So we'll talk again real soon. Bye-bye.